Okay, very good. All right, good morning, everyone. And this works, so people in the back of the room, can you hear me in the back of the room? All right, we got a head nod there. That's Katie Carl and my husband saying they can hear me. Very good. I'm Sheila Simon, and I am the chair of the Classrooms First Commission, which is looking at improving educational opportunity and improving efficiency in getting our tax dollars to where we want them to go in public education in Illinois. I am thrilled to be here with all of you. Thank you very much for being here, for being a part of this public process. We started our commission, we had our first meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we identified that we really want to be open-minded. We want to listen to everyone. We want to listen to administrators, teachers, students, parents. We have all sorts of folks involved on our commission, but we really want to reach out, and we're reaching out first here in Southern Illinois, and we're here to listen. So having said that and saying I definitely want to listen more than talk today, let me take the opportunity to have the other members of the commission introduce themselves, and if you have any comments about what you're interested in hearing today or who you're interested in hearing from, go ahead. Tom, you want to start off?
I'm Tom Skates from Carmi, White County.
I'm Brent Clark with the Illinois Association of School Administrators.
State Representative Roger Eddy, 109th District, and also school superintendent.
Good morning. I'm Linda Mitchell from the State Board of Education.
And we have here with me Lynn Hafely, who is working on the commission as a staff member, and Paul Swanston on the phone, and Larry Pfeiffer are also on the phone. Paul and Larry, can you guys hear us?
Yes.
Okay. All right, very good. Do you have anything you want to chip in before we start here?
Not at this time. Just anxious to hear what people have to say.
Okay, very good. And I should say that we are making this information available to all the other members of the commission. We are hopefully this is, if all the technology works, it will be live streaming so people can listen to it through a connection on the internet, and we'll also be recording the information in other more reliable ways, like actually taking notes here, to make sure that the other members of the commission get to hear from you as well. In the end, what we will be doing is reviewing what's going on in the state, what we can do more of by way of things that are good, and where we can make improvements. So let's see. Having said that, we have a few ground rules. We asked everyone to sign up if they were interested in speaking, and I think we have enough. We have enough time. And we certainly want to listen to everyone, that everyone who has signed up to speak can speak for up to 5 minutes. And Lynn here has cards that she can hold up, and when you've got 1 minute left, you're going to get the green card, and when you are up to your 5 minutes, you're going to get the red card. And that's how we will proceed. And Crystal is right there. And Crystal, you have the list of people, and Crystal's just going to call folks in order that they signed up. And let me also make a couple of notes. Number one, thanks to John A. Logan for having us here. I very much appreciate that. And the only challenge today is that they don't have water here. So the classes have been dismissed. That means we get better parking spaces, and I suppose flush judiciously would be the recommendation. So having said that, let's proceed to listening. And Crystal, you want to call the first person?
Dr. Steve Webb. Here we go. Dr. Steve Webb.
My name is Steve Webb, and I am the superintendent of Goreville Community Unit School District Number 1 in Goreville. I also serve as the president of the Association of Rural and Small Schools. I present testimony today not only as an educator, but also as a father of 4 children who attend small rural schools. Although you just started your journey into the question of efficiency regarding our most vulnerable aged children, I'm certain you must be aware there are a vast number of research-based findings that clearly identify the multitude of benefits of small schools over larger, more bureaucratically controlled entities. I'm also certain you must be aware that even Chicago Public Schools, our largest school district, has implemented small schools as a primary school improvement objective, an objective they have found extremely necessary and at the same time extremely difficult to accomplish. However, although you may have read every single one of those research documents, you may even be a researcher. If you're a parent, you obviously know that you want your child to attend school in a safe and quality environment. You want them to attend into an environment that takes efficiency as secondary to quality. That being said, I applaud you for changing the name to Classrooms First rather than the intended Consolidation Commission, because we as experienced and responsible adults should know that we should never discuss school consolidation as just a means to save money when we're talking about caring for and nurturing our children and trying to teach them to carry on when we are gone. We're not factories. We're not manufacturing a product to gain maximum profitability. In other words, thank you for the foresight to change the focus of this commission as being efficient so we can save money, because the last thing we need to be concentrating on at this time is saving money when we have so much at stake in our classrooms. The state of Illinois is such a diverse state in terms of population and terrain. Just one county over from where you sit today, a school district has under 600 students in the entire district. That school district covers over 250 square miles with their buses in order to get under 600 students to that school facility. There is not one single bus route in that entire district that there are not children on that bus for more than an hour. And this is already a consolidated county school district. However, across the state, there are also school districts that have well over 600, thousands, and they have less than 1 square mile in their school district. It's just too diverse. There's just no way a one-size-fits-all mentality can be used when we're talking about schooling our children. An organizational research specialist, Margaret Wheatley, in 1999 stated, "We live in a society that believes it can define normal and then judge everything against that fictitious standard." She added that the future lies in institutions based on principles and relationships rather than simply rules, which, according to researcher Tom Gregory, an Indiana University professor, small school districts with site-based management, site-based councils, which in Illinois we call those school boards. They do those very well. They epitomize those relationships and causes connectedness with your children. And the United Way has found that the connectedness is the one way the small schools have greater attendance rates, they have higher graduation rates, and are invariably safer, and they produce an atmosphere where a child feels necessary, something that is so important, especially if you are a parent. We in the state of Illinois cannot have fictitious numbers. We cannot use fictitious, arbitrary numbers of students that make schooling somehow efficient in the minds of a few. If so, we have lost sight of what we as parents, as responsible adults, need to be concentrating on in order to prepare our leaders of tomorrow. Will a lower number of school districts save the state money? It didn't in West Virginia. It didn't in Ohio. If a district can adequately and more safely educate a child for what we as a state has determined is the right amount of money per child, if they attend school every day, of course, then why are we even talking about efficiency at the state level? We use local revenues to pay for much of our schools, especially in Southern Illinois. We do rely on state aid, but most of it are local funds. Why not allow the locals to determine what they want to do with their schools? If you want to save money, keep kids out of prison where you assuredly will pay 100% of their costs. Make them feel necessary. In general, promoting consolidation of services. We already have schools that cooperate in different classes, in foreign languages, using teachers. I have two school districts that I've been to currently share teachers across their school districts. The other school district I share a foreign language teacher is 40 miles away, but we make it work. We have ways to make it work. Promoting that consolidation of services should be your state job. Consolidation of schools should be a local decision only. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Dr. Webb, thank you very much, and I very much appreciate what you had to say. let me just add a couple of notes with regard to research. I should give a plug to Dr. Lynn Hafley here, who has put a lot of the research on our website. So for those who are interested in looking at the research, you have access to it through our website, and it's a pretty good collection and very informative. And I think anyone who comes to this issue with one particular thing set in mind will have their minds opened up by looking through that research. So I appreciate that reference. And I certainly appreciate the idea that one size does not fit all in the state of Illinois. That's something I'm very mindful of as someone from Southern Illinois. We appreciate your words. Any other? Oh, Senator Luchtefeld is here. Great. We have a place for him. We got a place for you down at the end of the table. Thanks. Anyone else have questions for Dr. Webb? Okay. Let's go on to our next person.
Right, Richard Towers.
I just want to say this is Senator Linda Holmes. I just came on about 3 minutes ago.
Senator Holmes, thanks for being here. We've heard from one person already, and we're going to hear from some more here. And if there's anything that you'd like to add as we go along, Senator, please do, okay?
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lieutenant Governor Simon, in the Classroom First Commission. My name is Richard Towers. I'm the superintendent of the Christopher Unit School District. In the fall of 2009, discussions were conducted with regards to a voluntary reorganization between Christopher Unit 99 and Ziegler-Royalton Unit 188. In December of 2009, both boards of education gave their approval to have a reorganization feasibility study conducted. The feasibility study was presented in May of 2010 with a recommendation to further pursue reorganization. The Committee of 10 was seated in August of 2010 and has been meeting monthly to perform fact-finding in the following areas: curriculum, finance, facilities, transportation, and extracurricular activities. I would like to briefly touch on 3 of these areas: curriculum, finance, and facilities. The curriculum subcommittee took a more focused look at the high schools. Currently, Ziegler-Royalton High School, with an enrollment of around 200, and Christopher High School, with an enrollment of around 255, each have roughly 47 course offerings, excluding special education, driver's education, and physical education. The subcommittee obtained curriculum guides from area high schools with enrollments ranging from 449 to 488 students. The discrepancies are not only obvious, but eye-opening. In comparing the curriculum guides, the subcommittee found that students attending those schools could select between 77 and 106 course offerings. The extra course offerings are mainly in fine arts, advanced placement, vocational education, and foreign languages. From a financial standpoint, both districts are currently solvent. If reorganization were to occur, apart from incentives from the state of Illinois, there would be administrative savings. Those savings would include the reduction of a superintendent, realignment of the central office staff, and elimination of areas of redundancy, such as legal and financial services. However, the savings would be short-lived, as the main goal of our reorganization is to increase the curricular offerings, with any savings being redirected back into the classrooms. The facility subcommittee noted that neither high school could house the combined enrollments. In addition, adding on to either of the high schools would only provide a short-term fix. The combined equalized assessed valuation of both districts would not support the revenue needed to construct a new facility. With reorganization being discussed at the state level, districts attempting to reorganize should be offered increased incentives, such as Priority 1 school construction funding. The local school boards of our districts want to provide the best educational experience for our students through a more enhanced curriculum. Through the reorganization process, momentum has built. However, We have learned that these opportunities can only be provided within one unified facility. Therefore, funding for a new high school is vital to the success of our reorganization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we've got a question here.
Mr. Towers, do you have an estimate, according to the provisions that are provided in the state code or state school code on consolidation? Do you have an estimate of what those dollars, in terms of the incentive dollars that are called, if you were to consolidate, what that would be to your district? Not counting construction, just the normal incentives.
The normal incentives, through our feasibility study, it's based upon 2008 and 2009 data. We're looking at shade under $3 million. But looking at those incentives now, probably looking about $2 million. Now, those incentives are a total, and they would be spread out over a period of 4 years. But the main thing we're looking at, we're wanting to add curriculum. We're wanting to provide our students with more educational opportunities. And any of the incentive money that we would receive through the reorganizational process would be redirected back into the classroom in the areas of vocational education, fine arts, advanced placement, and foreign languages.
Thank you.
Just briefly, does either school district have an application or currently on the school construction grant list?
Yes, sir. Christopher Unit 99 is currently on the 2009 school construction list.
Okay. And have they applied to build, what type of a structure are they?
We're looking at a high school.
So you're currently on the list?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
Other questions? No? Okay, thanks very much, and thanks for your focus on a rich curriculum. I very much appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, George Wilkerson.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am George Wilkerson, and I'm superintendent of Ziegler-Ralton District 188. Mr. Towers has done a fine job of explaining our situation. A couple things I would add to that is, you know, I'm looking on the TV and driving here as well, and I drive by Carterville High School, which is a beautiful high school. And I see John Green on TV all the time with the additions to his school, and it's looking real good. And Dr. Kelly is breaking ground on a DuQuoin High School as well. And it's just one of those things that would help us as far as competing with them. We're really focusing on the education aspect of it. As Mr. Towers said, there's 47 classes offered at Christopher and 45 at our school. And the normal math would think, well, we're offering 92 classes, and that's not true because of the fact that we're offering a lot of the same things. Over the past years, because of our enrollment, we've not been able to offer the vocational areas, such as building trades and home ec. A lot of those things are being eliminated because of class numbers. We feel with the consolidation, those classes could be offered again, along with AP classes, which a lot of these school districts who have numbers about 400 or 500 in their high school are offering. That study on that is, those numbers are on our website, www.zr188.org, as far as what school districts of high schools around 500 are offering versus what we can offer. Is it going to save a lot of money? Probably not. It's probably not going to save much money. Our local people are more worried about their tax increases because of you know, what's offered at the state now. But we are doing this mainly for the purpose of educating our kids. Thank you.
Yeah, quick question,
Sure.
couple of questions. It's going to save you money, but money that you want to save to be able to put into education. because that's your decision,
Yes,
if I'm
yes,
understanding you
yes,
correctly. Okay,
absolutely.
good. I like that. Thank you.
Just for purposes of clarity, Mr. Wilkerson, what you're talking about is following the provisions that are in the school code now for consolidation, but asking for a little bit of uptick, so to speak, in the ability to build a high school, which you currently can't do due to your cap on your equalized assessed value.
Well,
Is that
just
correct?
yes, and just looking at the 2002 list that just is getting funded, here we are 2011. Mr. Towers is saying 2009. When is that going to get funded?
2049, probably.
Maybe, yeah. Hopefully we'll be alive to see that.
But for the purposes of the whole process here, you're looking for a construction move.
Yes.
The current incentives work for you. I understood everything Mr. Towers said, but you're looking for the construction move. And that's what I want us to take away from this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You may not have this, but one of the issues in school construction is the percentage of the cost of the building that's paid for by the state. Do you know the current grant index or the percentage that would be paid if the Christopher grant were to be funded?
We estimate that the cost of this new facility would be approximately $28 million, which would mean that our share would be about $7 million.
So you're at the 75% funding
Yes,
rate.
we're at
What
the
about, is it Ziegler Royalty? What about their grant rate percentage? About the same?
I believe it's the same, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe I came in late and I might have missed this, but have you voted, have you had a referendum that you might come together, consolidate, and how do the communities feel about that?
Our committee of 10 has been meeting on a regular basis. Actually, we're meeting tonight. We have to still design a tax rate for the consolidation. We are looking at boundaries for the voting of the board members of this new district. It's anticipated that we will have a final report to our school boards hopefully by the end of this year so that they can decide to put this on the ballot, and we're looking at a November referendum next year.
And you have probably a pretty good feel for the communities. Normally communities don't really want to consolidate. Normally they want to keep their identity but do you feel that there is enough support to make this consolidation?
I feel that there's some positive and negative in both directions. That's as far as I know right now.
Right.
I hear a lot of positive and some negative as well. And like you said, the identity is one of the main issues.
Thank you.
Can I ask one other question?
Just for the purposes of clarification of a statement, the statement was that the EAVs for the district would not support the construction. Could you elaborate on that just a little bit?
The EAV, the most we can borrow as per statute is about 13.5%, I believe, of the EAV. And that amount, because our districts are so poor, I think our EAV is about 21 million, and yours is what, Rich? 28. That 13.5% would not be enough to borrow for.
So if you calculated the bonding authority with other outstanding bonds that you might have, you wouldn't have enough room to pay for the construction of the building via bonds?
Yes, that's
Would
correct.
you, with the 25% index, if 75% were paid for, would the 25% portion fall under your bond cap?
It would be very close.
Barely,
Yeah.
but it would be very close
Very
at that point.
close.
But the real problem here is 09
Right.
as compared to the incentive
Yes.
potential. Okay.
Representative Eddie, Franklin County passed a 1% school facility sales tax last year, so as far as the 25% local share for a new facility, we would have the bonding authority under that 1% revenue to generate that locally.
So in other words, your funding source for the local portion to pay the bonds wouldn't be property taxes, it would be the 1% occupation or the sales tax retail. Okay, all right, thank you.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
James Woodward. James here? No. David Mabe?
My script says good morning, and I guess it's 5 minutes. I still should say good morning. My name is David Mabe. I'm a retired teacher and administrator from Texas. I was told about this meeting by one of our contract holders, and we have a cooperative that we started in Texas in rural Northeast Texas. We formed our cooperative to help 48 school districts in Northeast Texas with their purchasing opportunities, and I appreciate the passion of the first speaker being from rural. Dr. Webb inspires me again to hear that story, and we in our state fight the consolidation efforts and movements, but I bring to you thoughts about efficiencies in purchasing. I'm the national coordinator for the Tips Taps Purchasing Co-op. The Tips Taps Purchasing Cooperative is sponsored by Region 8 Education Service Center in Northeast Texas, in Mount Pleasant, Texas. Region 8 Education Service Center is a government entity in Texas as defined by Chapter 75 of the Texas Education Code. School districts in Illinois can join our cooperative by approving an interlocal agreement and board resolution, which I've attached in the script that I provided. The Illinois Intergovernmental Cooperation Act grants authority for public agencies such as school districts to exercise any powers, privileges, or authority jointly with any other public agency of Illinois or any other state which has the same powers, privileges, or authority. The purpose of the cooperative agreement is to increase efficiency and effectiveness of local governments by authorizing them to contract to the greatest possible extent with one another. Our co-op was started in 2002 in Texas. In 2005, we moved to the state of Arkansas. Today, we offer 650 contracts to over 1,450 members in 45 states. The Tips Taps Co-op provides quality contracts and services through a competitive bid process. This process ensures selection of high-quality vendors that have been awarded a contract based on not only price, references, quality of goods, contract terms, delivery, along with several other considerations. Vendors and entities both benefit from our co-op. If a vendor is successful in competing for a contract, the vendor may avoid the costly time and expense of participating in the competitive process for each individual participating entity, and the participating entities may avoid the time and expense of going through the competitive process. The purpose of our co-op is to provide school districts in Illinois and other government entities opportunities for greater efficiencies and economy in acquiring goods and service, take advantage of state-of-the-art purchasing procedures to ensure competitive contracts, provide competitive price solicitation and bulk purchasing for multiple government entities that yields economic benefit unobtainable by individual entities, provide quick and efficient delivery of goods and services by contracting with high-performance vendors, equalize purchasing power for small entities that are not able to obtain the best contracts for themselves because of size and quantity, maintain credibility and confidence in business procedures by maintaining open competition for purchases and complying with purchasing laws and ethical business practices, and to assist entities in maintaining the essential controls for budget and accounting purposes. There are several advantages of our co-op. We save the procurement processing time, which in general is 2 to 3 weeks. We save on procurement cost, which can range from $250 to $1,600. We offer lower prices because of our combined quantities. We attract large vendors, have the ability to make purchases quickly, and there's no charge to join our co-op. We were informed of this opportunity by one of our participating vendors, IC Enterprises, which is a roofing contractor from Effingham, Illinois. Last year, our number 4 contract in our co-op was CDWG, which is a company from Chicago, Illinois. And Tips Taps Purchasing Co-op asked for the Office of the Lieutenant Governor to recognize our purchasing cooperative as an acceptable procurement option for school districts and other government entities in the state of Illinois. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you for your comments. I just wanted to make people aware that the state of Illinois participates in one other, I don't know that there's a reason why we couldn't do more than one, but already participates in something called the Illinois School Purchasing Network, which is part of U.S. Communities. U.S. Communities runs a purchasing cooperative that has 48,000 participants, state and local governments, school districts across the country. About 860 of our school districts in the state of Illinois participate in the program already and are enjoying some benefits from that.
Thanks.
Ralph Harris.
Well, she told me to put this in writing. I did one, so I'll give it to you guys when I get finished with this. My name is Ralph Harris. I'm a senior roof consultant for IC Enterprises. IC Enterprises has been in business for 21 years in Effingham. We're a commercial roof contractor based, like I said, out of Effingham, Illinois. It derives much of its income on a national level. We are in our collective experiences, we have completed over 50 school projects and municipal projects ranging from $10,000 to $1.4 million, or 6 million square feet. Because of IC Enterprises' past experience, we find a lot of inadequacies in the way our state and local government construction processes apply to re-roof projects, not new construction. New construction requires architects on every level. I've listed a couple of examples in the state, and these are all based off of TIPS numbers. Teotopolis Schools, Unit 50, project type re-roof, square footage 40,000 square foot. Architects project $580,000 for that roof. IC Enterprise estimate under the TIPS contract, $298,000. Project is not awarded yet. We actually went in after the fact. In this state, we're having architects that have been in control of re-roof projects for so long, they very rarely accept even energy efficient alternates. They pretty much stay with the same vendors that they've used constantly, and I think it's artificially inflating the numbers in the state for re-roof projects. Centralia Schools, Unit 135, project type re-roof, project square footage 60,000 square feet, project estimate $790,000, IC Enterprise estimate $480,000. Project status, that's completed in the $790,000 range. You need to remember that under TIPS, we're still obligated to follow all prevailing wage. We still follow all state guidelines and state laws, and we still have to make a profit because we're in business to make a profit. But we're making a profit at these numbers, and we're still following all of the guidelines that are set forth. I added Vandalia State Prison because it kind of touched me a little bit. Project square footage 100,000 square feet. Architectural project 2.2 through the Central Development Board. IC Enterprises estimate was $1.2 million. Project status not awarded. A special note on that one, the architect's proposed roofing system would actually increase the energy bills of the prison 5 to 10%, while IC Enterprises' solution at $1 million less would decrease energy costs in the facility, providing a 25-year roof. We'd decrease their energy cost 25% on a monthly basis. The solution or the wheel has already been invented and is functioning in over 45 states, saving money and supplying high quality and vendors. The solution I speak of is the interlocal purchase system of TIPS. The purchase cooperative will allow cities and schools to save upwards of 40% on re-roofs and as much as 70% on architectural fees. We're still required to have architects, and I've solicited firms, and I can get them to do projects for 4%, with their expenses. IC Enterprise specializes in only the highest quality green roofing products such as Duralast. Duralast is the #1 rated single-ply roofing system for longevity and energy efficiency as rated by Buyers Lab and Energy Star. On average, our roof systems will save 20 to 40% on energy bills, over 50 years or over 15-year warranties on every roof. They're actually factory inspected. This otherwise would go, okay. IC Enterprise also is a leader in recycling tear-off materials that would otherwise go straight to our landfills. One such project was a federal courthouse in Urbana. A complete tear-off was required and no material going to the landfills. That was a 100% recycle on the tear-off. Please bear in mind, TIPS vendors such as IC Enterprise will still be required to follow all current state, architectural, and prevailing wage requirements on TIPS programs. The change that will have to take place is the lead on the project will move from the architect to the roof consultant. An architect will still draw all the plans, approve all consultants' project specifications to verify that they are sound and meet all manufacturers' guidelines and warranties. However, in many states, municipal projects such as re-roof, drywall, flooring do not require architects unless there is a 10% change.
And we're going to cut you off there, but I appreciate your written comments and do make sure that we get them so that we can circulate them to the commission members.
All right.
Thanks very much. Any questions? Okay. All right, thanks.
And I can take any written comments if you guys want. Dr. William Phillips.
Good morning, Lieutenant Governor and Commission members. My name is Bill Phillips. I'm a retired school superintendent for 26 years. Currently, I'm an associate professor of ed leadership at the University of Illinois in Springfield. The issue of school district consolidation has been a very long interest of mine. I'm going to speak just about a couple of areas since I only have 5 minutes. And the first area that I wanted to talk about was mandated consolidation. I think the commission needs to know that there is a perception, certainly in this room and probably throughout the state of Illinois, that mandated consolidation is a goal, an aim, and somehow the state of Illinois and the legislature is moving towards this goal. I do not believe that because I've worked with agencies, the state board, and legislators many times on this. However, it is a perception, and you need to know that it exists. I also want to tell you a story, if I may. This is not the first time that Illinois has ventured into the area of mandated consolidation. In 1985, Senate Bill 730 was passed, which was a large bill in which embedded in it was a portion dealing with mandated consolidation. It required that every school district participate in a study, every single school district in Illinois, through their regional offices, and it also required that these studies must come up with minimum enrollment numbers of 1,000 for elementary districts, 500 for high schools, and 1,500 for units. These studies began, but then the political outcry from the citizens in Illinois was so great that the very next legislative session, the requirements of enrollments were rescinded, leaving just the requirements for studies. So Illinois has been there, and I think people need to know that it's been there, it's been discussed, and basically it was turned down, at least at that time. The second thing I want to talk about is a segue with comments from your previous speakers. I have completed 47 feasibility studies for school districts in Illinois, 100+ school districts, and I've done it in all areas of the state, north, south, east, and west. I can tell you that this topic is as emotional as it gets for communities and schools. This topic generates a lot of interest. Now, in 2001, I served on a subcommittee for EFAB with Representative Eddy, who was not Representative Eddy at that time. And one of our prime recommendations at that time was exactly what Richard and George told you. To give priority consideration for building buildings for districts that consolidate. In my opinion, based upon my experience, the issue is not the number of school districts in Illinois. The issue is small high schools. They told you that their prime consideration was enlarging the curricular offerings for their students in their communities. And that's true. What is keeping them from doing that, and I did this study for Christopher and Ziegler, to this day has been explained. They need assistance from the state of Illinois to build a building. Now, the concept of regional high schools has been discussed. And, you know, that's a pretty loosey-goosey reference, but what, you know, I believe that, you know, if you give assistance to districts, and let me give you a sample. In Iowa, through the process of legislation, they apply the 1-cent sales tax to the entire state. And that has resulted in world-class educational facilities for Iowa schools. I suggest to the legislators that if you did the same thing in Illinois, I think you would have the same result. In fact, I'm sure of it. Barring that, if you would give them priority funding from the Capital Development Board for districts that successfully meet whatever guidelines you put together, like Christopher and Ziegler, if you build the building for them, or at least give them highest priority, this will have an accelerated effect on districts considering reorganization in Illinois. I thank you and leave you with one last note. I want to leave you with a line from a famous movie. If you build it, they will come.
Thank you. Don't leave because Representative Eddy has a question.
Dr. Phillips, a couple of things. I do remember that recommendation, and I also remember the school construction grant program that followed that resulted in probably multiple buildings being built in separate communities that would have probably considered one building for two had that recommendation been heeded.
Right.
We're in another construction grant cycle right now, and there haven't been any significant changes in the priorities or the attainment of priority ranking. There are, though, some what would appear to be disincentives to reorganization as it relates to the school construction program. Do you agree with that?
Well, you're probably talking about extremely small districts getting Capital Development Board funds to build new buildings in districts which may be considered by some to be too small already. There was some, and we talked about it on our group. We recommended that the high school population be a minimum of 250 students, if you'll remember. And that was not derived from extensive research, although research indicates, I can tell you because I've read most of it, indicates that the most effective, the most efficient high school populations number from 500 to 1,200. Now, I realize realistically, especially in this area, that to coalesce populations of 500 students would be difficult. But I think 250 is attainable. And I think some regional or rational formula to come up with a size or a minimum size for a new high school could be obtained. And I think most of these small high schools have between 75 and 150 students. They're in that area. So if you put those together, you're going to get to the 250.
So, but right now, if two school districts on the construction grant list,
right,
for example, had different grant indexes, isn't there a disincentive for reorganization based on the fact that if the district...
Well, it depends on what the new one is going to get. And we came up to this issue at Paris. And that was really stopping some construction at Paris. And I think legislation was passed that you get to choose the higher of the two.
It blended the two.
Yeah, okay.
And that's,
blended the two.
I think that's the point. There are some disincentives in the current, even if two districts would like to do it. In this case, they're both 75%. That makes sense. There's no disincentive.
Right.
But in case if there's a 75% grant index and a 35% grant index, there's a disincentive to those in the community with a 75% grant index to even blend their grant index with the 35% because they're not going to receive as high an index. So that's what I think.
That was the issue in Paris. That was resolved with the
and it might exist in other situations where we're looking at it. So that's not even an additional incentive.
I would suggest that if districts consolidate, allow them to take with them the highest of the two priority rankings for Capital Development Board. I mean, that's not currently law, but I would suggest that's a reasonable way to handle that issue. There are other taxing disincentives which are very important, which I didn't mention. I didn't have time, which should be equalized. They've not been equalized for many, many years, and they should be. Yes, sir.
Of those 47 districts that you've performed feasibility studies in, can you give us a breakdown of how many of those 47 studies were recommended to consolidate and how many were recommended not to consolidate?
We recommended that 44 of them consolidate and 3 to not consolidate.
How many did?
My batting average. I'm always asked that question. It's about 250.
So
about
11,
1/4 of the
11
districts
of the
that we do studies for end up actually consolidating and using one of the 11 approved methods in Illinois currently.
Okay, and in those instances, both the instance of the 11 that consolidated and the 3 that you recommended not consolidate, what were the variables that caused you not to recommend not consolidate on those 3 instances?
One of the largest, I call them killer issues, is where is the high school going to be located? When you have 2 or more communities, and we do a lot of stuff, almost all of the studies that we do involve high school coalescing of populations. We very rarely, if ever, change the elementary sites for the communities. We try to leave them there, and the facilities are usually fine. It's the coalescing of the high school population in the building that's always the issue. The communities, if you go to one community, it has a bigger facility, and the other one does not get the high school, that's an issue. And there's an extremely high sense of loyalty, tradition, whatever you want to call it, local control, for having a high school in your community. It's the center of recreation and social events for these communities. I attended a high school that had less than 200 students. And in fact, I did the study where they were annexed by a neighboring district, and that was a traumatic situation. But that's normally the case. That issue, in the case of Ziegler and Christopher, it's funding. Their EAV just does not support what they would have to put forward, even with the 1-cent sales tax. That's why I recommend the 1-cent sales tax. If you could apply that statewide, the facilities in Illinois would be immeasurably improved, and it wouldn't cost the state of Illinois any money. I forgot to say that. I mean, this would all be local funding that would be generated through the sales tax provisions by county. So it would be huge. Other factors, sometimes the age of the building and the distances between and whatever, but those things can all be worked out. The location of the high school, and sometimes the construction of a new high school raises the tax rates or accelerates the rate that people would have to pay for taxes to the point where it becomes unattractive. So if they have to build a new high school, that's an issue, unless they have their own funding and there's not many power plants or coal mines, being opened in southern Illinois right now.
So on the 11 that did consolidate, can we deduce from your comments that they were able to arrive at a mutually agreeable location for the high school,
yes,
and that funding was adequate and in place for them to go ahead and move forward?
Right. Now, I didn't mention the incentives. There's 4 very large incentives. Richard mentioned them, that some of them go for multiple years. Those incentives are good, and they're very necessary, and they're a rarity in the United States. Most districts or most states do not do that. Now, I have some other suggestions in that area, which you could add, and I think would be helpful, with not a whole lot of extra money spent. But, be that as it may, those incentives help. But of the districts that do it, Some of them already have facilities in place. They do annexations, where a smaller district is annexed by a neighboring larger one that the facilities are already there, many times resulting in lower tax rates for the smaller school district. That's not universally true. It depends on the situation and, you know, the method that they pick. There's a nice potpourri of options for districts to choose from currently. There's 11 different ways, and most of them deal, probably 9 of them deal with different ways to consolidate high schools. So there's a good variety there to choose from. But the issue is some people just, in the communities, they cannot give up the concept of having a high school in their community. And they almost invariably pay higher taxes to keep that option, almost without exception.
I have one final question for you. We've asked a lot of surface questions, so let's dig to the real problem here. Do you take any responsibility for coming up with a new mascot when schools get consolidated?
Well, you've heard the old story. I think Max Pearson started this, the hardest animal to kill is a school mascot, and there's some truth in that. But I can tell you that it was a twinge for me in Chenoa when the redbirds were gone. There were no more redbirds. And it is for people in other communities. And I fully realize that when I do these studies and talk to people around the state of Illinois, it's a huge issue. It's an emotional issue, and you can see that Christopher and Ziegler are at the point where they've determined that to improve the education for our boys and girls, this is a good option. And I think it would work. If they had the funding, it would be there.
You've said that Iowa has a one
Yes.
cent sales tax.
Applied statewide.
Statewide. Is it first come, first served, or is it the amount generated in each area is all you can spend?
It's dispersed in the same manner that it is in Illinois for the 9 counties that have it, which include down here Franklin and Williamson being the very first. It's dispersed by enrollment per student. However many students you have, they divide the money. In this case, it would be by the Department of Revenue. For the 1 cent sales tax for each county. Now, each county is going to generate different amounts of money. Some counties, like Williamson County, is going to generate more in tax money because of the commercial development that Williamson has that Franklin, to the north of it, does not have. But whatever that county has would be dispersed by the Department of Revenue.
So even though it's a statewide sales tax, it's
dispersed by student.
It's kept in the county.
Yes. And each county would have a different number because there's a different amount of money generated in sales tax in each county.
Okay.
And a per capita basis.
Okay, thanks very much. Tom,
Okay.
any questions? Okay.
Thanks for
No?
listening.
Okay, thank you. And let me just address, let me just take a moment to address, I appreciate you bringing up this fear of mandated consolidation. And I think in the beginning of this discussion in the legislature this year, there was discussion of mandated consolidation, and that did scare people. As the chair of this commission, one of the reasons I sought to be the chair of this commission is that we need to address educational quality and efficient use of public tax dollars in terms of getting education. Consolidation does not necessarily equal those two things, and that's why I've asked the commission to be open-minded about this, and that's why we're here today, is to listen. So I appreciate that point. Okay, next.
Jerry Phillips.
My comments may direct or accurately portray this assumption of the mandate, having read the law. My name is Jerry Phillips. I'm the principal of Cowden-Herrick High School in Cowden, Illinois. It's about 2.5 hours drive from here, north of here. First, I'd like to thank the members of the commission who are present here today to hear the comments from the public and from the experts on such a very important issue. This is a very, very important issue. I come to you today as a public school administrator, but again, as Dr. Webb said, I come to you as a parent and a community member. I have to start out by saying that I consider myself a very open-minded person, but I am adamantly opposed to any reorganization or any type of consolidation that has not been initiated or approved at the local level. I've read all the information on your website. I've read the law as it was passed. And to be honest, I have a little trouble understanding why we're doing this at all. I've always lived by the idea that if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So I guess you just work to make it better. My question to you is, what's broken? If the entire state is broken with regards to educating our young people, then why does the research point to the contrary? We are doing a lot of very good things in our schools. All our schools strive to improve at the local level, but we're not broken. If this is a monetary issue, when we talk about funding to students, then why are most of our districts doing very well and at the recognition level? Could we use the money? Absolutely. There's not a school district in Illinois that couldn't. Right now, we'd be satisfied with having the money that's owed us when it's due. Wouldn't it be a better use of our resources to target those schools that are having trouble financially and with performance, and work specifically with those districts? And is reorganization and consolidation the answer? On the summary page of Public Act 097-0503, it states the purpose of the commission. That's where your perception is coming out. It says to make recommendations to the governor and the General Assembly on the number of school districts in the state, the optimal enrollment for each district, and where realignment and consolidation would be beneficial. And then it states that the Commission's recommendations must focus on all the following. And I applaud you on the fact that you are looking at reducing the money spent on duplication of efforts, improving the education of students. That's every educator's goal. Lowering the property tax burden, and providing recommendations as to what the net cost savings of realignment to the state would be, and providing input to school districts on reorganization. Some of those are very broad statements, and they're kind of vague, and can be adjusted to fit most any need. I think the public deserves some clarification on these, and in somewhat of real words. As far as numbers, if you have to make recommendations, I don't see how this commission could be formed to do its work in a year's time without having some sort of pre-existing idea of what those numbers should look like. The data and research that you have on your website, they have several. I feel it's your responsibility as a commission to let the school districts and the communities could be affected know what these numbers are up front, or could be diligent in keeping the public more aware of what's going on and involved in the whole process. Frankly, there's just not a great deal out there about this commission, about it existing, or what its purpose is. That worries me a little bit. It may worry several people in this room, or they wouldn't be here. My suggestion might be, how about instead of a website, you visit these districts, visit the communities, talk to the people, see those wonderful things that are going on. I think you'll find that we're very efficient in what we do. I'm in a high school district, or a high school of 135 kids, varying whenever we come. We have a lot of mobility. I do have a neighboring district of 120 kids, 5 miles away. We are very efficient. We do share a lot of things. And our local boards do a good job at that. I think what this boils down to is compromise. The creation of this commission was a compromise. The decisions made will be a compromise. And the numbers that you present to the Governor and General Assembly will be based upon a compromise. Over the last few weeks, I've read a great amount of information laced with a great amount of political jargon. I think really you should call the commission what the law says it should be. The School District Realignment Consolidation Commission. It's always been said it takes a village to raise a child. It also takes a village to educate one. You ask for my input on how to better educate our children. My answer is very simple. Cut the bureaucracy at the state level with regards to education. Let the educators, parents, and community members do the job of educating our children without the red tape and without the obstacles. Visit the classrooms. You'll be amazed what they're doing. Thank you again for your time.
Okay, thank you. questions?
Yeah, I'm going to respond to just, if I could. Brett, could you hand me that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry, I just, not necessarily a question, I want to respond though, because you asked a good question about what is broken. And I think that is what we should be about, is to look at ways that we can enhance and maybe even get out of the way, in some cases, of local districts and their efforts to do what's best for their children. So that's why whenever I ask questions, I want to find out what we're doing that kind of impedes progress in communities that are making their own decision. I agree 100% with the idea that nobody cares more about those children than the local community, and they're going to do what's best for them, but sometimes we're the ones that get in the way. Sometimes our rules, well-intended, have unintended consequences. And some of those consequences we've discussed that have to do with the school construction program, and I think we should take a very, very close look at those. There are other, I believe, unintended consequences that I hope we find out about from individuals, because for some communities this is the best option. And there are communities that are really trying to look at ways to reorganize, but nobody will take their school. I mean, there are communities out there, believe it or not, that are at the point with either the tax rate, the financial issues, or the academic issues and being able to attract even qualified teachers, that they're saying, we really think we should look to somehow reorganize our district. But they're running into hurdles, they're running into obstacles. So to me, the change in focus that took place, and I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Simon for this, I think was you know, if we go back to the roots of this, this was in a speech that was given by the governor in his budget address. And there was a certain number of school districts, I think it was 300. And I don't know where he got that number, I don't have any idea, but I think that started the concern. And there were legislative proposals that were introduced by the General Assembly, I think, that responded to that. But I don't think that that's where the impetus from this came. I think just the opposite happened. The General Assembly looked at this and said, hey, wait a minute. We've been down this road before. These are communities we represent. What we really need to do is go talk to those folks and find out what we can do to enhance the opportunities for reorganization that makes sense for kids and taxpayers. So I think from the very beginning, when we began talking about how we best address that and set up this commission, we talked about forums like this. And the only thing I'd take exception to is whether or not people know about this. I think we have over 100 people here. So people are finding out. And I go all over the state, fortunately right now, talking about Senate Bill 7 and the reforms in it. But everybody knows what's happening, and there is a great deal of knowledge about this. And I really want to hear from people who have suggestions for us as to how we can enhance what we do for children by efficiency and by maybe removing some of the obstacles and certainly some of the things related to even the school construction grant program that are actually disincentives where people really want to do it, but never taking away that local option, that local control.
All right. I'd like to address a couple things. Just a couple items was the potential that we might already have some enrollment numbers in mind, and the fact that recommendations might already have been prepared. I can tell you that as one member of the commission, I have yet to see any preconceived enrollment numbers. I know nearly every person on this committee personally, and I don't think anybody would participate on this committee if it was some type of preconceived, here's the numbers, we're going to hold these hearings and we're going to trot this out, and we already know what the answers are. That's just simply not the case. And the people that are on this, that I know from a personal basis over many years, wouldn't participate in that type of commission or go to the trouble of going to these hearings. So I hope that eases some fears for you and for the other people that's around you. And if you have any questions, you can call me, and my phone number is 217-753-2213.
Yeah, thanks. We're here because we don't have, we don't have particular ideas about pre-existing plans, and we want to hear from folks so that we make the best plans. Senator.
You know, if this is a commission to mandate any kind of consolidation, or then I need to get off of it. So if you know, get what I'm saying, that's certainly not my intention. Thank you.
Jack Banbrick.
Good afternoon. My name is Jack Banbrick. I'm superintendent of Johnson City School District, And I too have to apologize for saying it in advance by saying that I just want to make sure that maybe that the commission doesn't feel like we think that you're doing this. I do appreciate the fact that you are here. I think we all appreciate the fact that you are here, and I think it's just a matter of another opportunity to have our voice be heard about potentially any consolidation issues. So toward that end, just want to thank you for taking the time to conduct hearings regarding this very important issue across our state. When it comes to education in Illinois, one can't help but wonder, what is the leadership in our state fighting for? What are we hoping to accomplish? And I think you made that clear about 2 minutes ago, a little more clear anyway. But what are the beliefs? What are the initiatives that are surrounded by the groundswell of support? And then my question is it all about attempting to reduce costs through consolidations? If that was the case, then you don't need to rely on only my 30 years of experience in public education, serving students, staff, and communities. In addition to my experience, there's plenty of research that should give cause for concern, such as the empirical research conducted by the National Education Policy Center that shows that consolidation does not, on average, reduce the educational expenditures. Or the Tribune that came to a similar conclusion in March of 2010 when they analyzed school districts that merged and determined that most school districts were spending more than they did before the merger. Or the State Board of Education FY09 report that demonstrates a definite trend. The larger the school district, the more it costs per pupil. Or, I think you get my point. I'm not at all certain that forced consolidation will assist the communities in our great state to continue to thrive and grow. Everyone in this room today is keenly aware that business, organizations, and families like to study a community and the schools prior to relocating. And our current structure of consolidation is difficult enough to overcome the loss of identity and pride when citizens of 2 or more school districts vote to come together. However, through the democratic process, they will have had the opportunity to cast their vote and be heard. Local control remains the single most essential element in public school education, especially when it comes to consolidation. The National Education Policy Center report goes on to point out the loss of control of a school erodes communities' social and economic base. Its sense of community, identity, and democracy. And the loss permanently diminishes the community itself, sometime to the verge of abandonment. Nothing good comes from education policy that forces the will of a few upon the masses. Let's not forget about the heavy-handed requirements of No Child Left Behind. Let's be sensible about consolidation. Consider the involvement of our communities like you are today. It is truly appreciated. Have the conversation about consolidation on a case-by-case basis. Consider this thought by Dr. Thomas Bertrand from Rochester Community Unit School District 3A. So in some cases, consolidation would make sense, but a state mandate would not be effective. If you take 2 districts that are broke and put them together, all you've done is create a larger district that's still broke. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
Well, we're getting down to the last few people who have signed up. If you're sitting here and you decided that you want to speak, please just step outside and we'll take down your name. The next person is Deborah Payne.
Hello. On behalf of the administration and Board of Trustees, we'd like to welcome you to John A. Logan. Sorry about the facilities. We are having Civil War Day, so if you do hear the boom, that is the cannon in the background, but the kids are having a great time. My name is Deborah Payne. I currently serve as Dean for Instruction here at the college. My responsibilities include all baccalaureate transfer and career and technical programming here. I currently teach master's level education courses and have over 25 years of experience in the K through 12 system as a teacher, a counselor, and a building administrator. I have my superintendent certification and my PhD in educational administration. But my remarks will be very brief, and they are going to reflect on my own experiences and observations with school consolidation, having experienced that early on. There are many educators and superintendents that have spoken and can continue to speak about financial, taxation, and governance issues surrounding school consolidation, or as you so aptly put it, classrooms first. My remarks are directed toward those issues related to our most important stakeholder, our students. The decisions that are made by those in political, governance, and educational positions will have a direct and hopefully positive effect on the future of our youth. But there are 4 considerations that I wish to emphasize today that will largely influence the success of any merger. The first consideration is the ability to enhance educational and social outcomes for students. Will such a decision allow schools to develop curricula that offers specialized programs for college and career preparation? Will there be a commitment to college and career readiness on the part of those school districts? More doesn't necessarily mean better. So I would say to you that specific, deliberate considerations need to be made in curricular decision-making to ensure a quality program and a rich curriculum. Will tutorial services or academic interventions for students who need academic help be available? Will higher quality libraries and access to technology and an emphasis on technological literacy be available to these students? It is more than a building, it's more than a sports team, it's their future. Will the ability to leverage academic opportunities with community colleges such as ours and several in the area for dual credit or dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment opportunities enhance the education for these students in a high school setting? In addition to academic and literacy concerns, will the school district be able to provide more extracurricular opportunities for students? Often sporting teams, clubs, newspapers, and other specialized groups get diminished during mergers. And a key phrase I'd like to offer to you is the capacity to support students. I think this is the concept that ought to be considered above and beyond anything else. The capacity to support students in all of their needs needs to be considered. Will the district equalize educational opportunities for students across communities? We already know transportation issues are a real dilemma, and supervision has to be considered. Will student personnel services such as counseling, career guidance, and health and wellness services be accessible to all students in all locations? Again, it is my belief that equity should be a guiding principle in making these very important decisions. In summary, I would like to suggest that constituent groups, including students from all affected schools and communities, be invited to participate in these discussions that will have a direct impact on them, their children, and their grandchildren. I think it's also important to listen to those who disagree. In my experience, it's often those with divergent views that help us to become more objective and attentive to issues that are really important. Students are our lifeblood. They're our future city officials, our teachers, our parents, and our taxpayers. We must all do all we can to preserve what is good, correct what is lacking, and above all, do no harm. Thank you.
Questions for Deb? Deb, thank you. And make sure you get that list to Crystal. Very well thought out. Next up, Crystal.
Dan Cox.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to testify this afternoon. My name is Dan Cox. I'm superintendent of Jasper County Unit 1 in Jasper County, Illinois. And pardon me, bear with me. I've had a cold I've been battling all week. Jasper County Community Unit 1 is the largest school district geographically in the state of Illinois, covering 462 square miles. Today I'm here to paint a picture for you of some of the challenges that we face transporting students in such a large area. Some of the facts to get our 1,400 students to school are that the district owns and maintains 56 buses that travel 71 routes. Buses travel up to 682,000 miles per year transporting our students to school. In addition to Jasper County, our buses travel in 6 other counties to the communities of Robinson, Oblong, Hudsonville, Charleston, Noble, Clay City, Teotopolis, Effingham, Louisville, and Champaign in order to meet our special needs of all of our students. 77% of Jasper County students ride school buses to and from school on a regular basis. It takes 55 transportation employees to maintain a transportation system of this magnitude. 11.9% of our budget expenditures lie in transportation, while the state average is 3.9%. In the past, we purchased 6 buses per year. Due to funding cuts to transportation, the district reduced the bus purchases to 2 per year, and eventually 0 buses were purchased last year. This puts our buses on a 14-year rotation before they are put out of service, and they total over 200,000 miles whenever we are done using those buses at that time, which raises safety concerns. 2 buses will be purchased this year, likely pushing the district into deficit spending in transportation in fiscal year 13. These facts are presented to the Commission to give a brief understanding of the difficulties associated with transporting students over such large distances. Despite the challenges, Jasper County schools are quite successful. Newton Elementary achieved the National Blue Ribbon status last year. With continued cuts to transportation, it's very likely transportation fund balances will be depleted within the next 2 to 3 years. At that time, we'll have to take dollars intended for education and put it into transportation, thus limiting our educational opportunities. We've already taken several steps on our own locally to become more efficient. We've reduced 5 bus routes. We've closed 7 schools. We've reduced teachers from 126 to 93 over the last decade. Those were all very difficult decisions then, and trust me, they're still difficult to deal with today. Additional challenges presented in a district that includes such a large area to cover are our after-school programs. During these difficult economic times, it's hard for parents to get their children to and from school for additional programs and services. While this district is opposed to any type of forced consolidation, we are supportive of strategies and supports to become more efficient. One area that we've discussed and we would like to see is some studies or help with a statewide infrastructure with technology bringing connectivity home to students. In doing so, we feel like we could share classrooms with other districts. I've visited schools in Alabama and seen that model. It was very successful there, where they were able to share students, share districts via technology, or even flip classrooms in our own district via the use of technology. But we have to have the infrastructure to be able to do that, which is a challenge too in rural communities.
Let me first ask a question about the infrastructure. You're talking about, is there enough broadband capacity in the area, or is it the computers that you're lacking?
Both.
Okay.
Low economic, but even our connectivity. We have a school, St. Marie is our kindergarten center. There's virtually no connectivity, and Representative Eddy attends CC meetings there with me. You can't even get cell phone service there. We call that, it's kind of exile out there. You can't get any type of service with internet or phones.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Dan, any comments or recommendations related to impediments and distance learning opportunities for students and as they relate to existing rules, mandates? Is there any way that efficiency could be enhanced via distance learning or some of these new technologies, not just with broadband, because obviously for rural areas that's going to be, but can you think of anything else you've run into?
It would depend, I guess, on what your situation was in your district and what you could offer. But in our situation, when we reduce so many teachers, we are offering a richer curriculum, but we may have 5 students in that class. We just financially couldn't achieve that anymore. The problem we have in our community is that the community still demands and wants that enriched curriculum, and we don't have the teachers to be able to have 5 to 10 to 15 students in a class. It'd be nice to be able to share that. And again, in the model that I visited in Alabama and was in the Huntsville area, but they did that statewide, they would have a situation where they may be teaching an advanced calculus or physics class, for example. The local school district would have an aide in the students in class, while the teacher from another school district was actually the teacher teaching her own class plus that one. The school districts, the participating school district then paid a fee to the hosting school district to help do that.
That was done through internet connectivity and streaming?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks very much.
Matt Donkin.
Lieutenant Governor Simon and members of the Commission, my name is Matt Donkin. I'm the Regional Superintendent of Schools for Franklin and Williamson counties, and I currently serve as the Vice President for the Illinois Association of Regional Superintendents of Schools. As you're looking at ways to reorganize education and find efficiencies in the system, I want to briefly discuss, for the record, our current efforts as regional superintendents to meet these goals. First, regional superintendents currently serve a vital role in the reorganization process. You have heard and will continue to hear as you go through this process testimony about school districts' reorganization process across the state. Because of current state law and the conversion and formation of school districts found in Chapter 105 of the Illinois Compiled Statutes in Article 11E, after all the work and investigation conducted by local petitioners through their committees of 10, like my two districts have done, the regional superintendent holds a public hearing so that local residents who will be most affected by district reorganization have another opportunity to voice their opinions. This is similar to the sometimes contentious process that happened in this state over the past several decades as the numbers of school districts were lowered and efficiencies were found, and county and regional superintendents were involved in that process all the way through. Regional superintendents are charged by law to make sure that all is in order with the petition. To paraphrase the law, we will take into consideration the school's needs and conditions of the affected districts and adjacent areas, the division of funds and assets that will result from the reorganization, the best interest of the schools in the area, and the educational welfare of the students living in the school districts. The regional superintendents then forward that petition to the state superintendent so that he and the Illinois State Board of Education can also make sure that all is in order. Upon the approval of the state superintendent, the regional superintendent then assumes the duty of certifying the question for the ballot for the local communities to decide. Besides shepherding the question through the election process, regional superintendents also oversee the process that forms and elects a potential new school board. Another role I want to touch on briefly is in the search for shared services as we work cooperatively with local school districts. Indeed, after the passage of Public Act 97-357 last spring, regional superintendents, and to quote the law, are encouraged to offer school districts the opportunity to share and join educational operational programs and to urge school districts to participate in these programs when it is fiscally prudent. To paraphrase the law, these services may include bidding and purchasing, office functions like payroll and accounting, information technology, professional development, grant writing, food service management, transportation, energy purchasing, supply purchasing, and more. Now, regional superintendents have been a little sidetracked the last few months, but we do continue to work to meet the needs of our local schools, and we look for more efficient ways to deliver services working with these school districts as we go forward. For myself, I just ask this commission to keep one thing in mind as you proceed. That is the place of public education in this representative democracy. As we all work to make the most effective and efficient educational system that we can for our students in the classrooms, we must remember to set up a process that makes sense and that listens to the voice of the local citizen. We have watched the educational reforms roll down from the top, be they from Washington or from the state. What must be remembered is that for every reform and accountability movement, there's often more administration and more oversight that gets added to follow up on these reforms. This hits the local level, both financially and in finding enough hours in the day to get everything done while still serving our students in the classroom. Reforms come down while complaints go up the line. Yet we know that the most effective reforms to any system depend on listening to those with the most direct contact with the situation on the ground and involving them in making change. That is the key to success. Listening to the voices of the citizens is often a messy process. But if the goal of public education is to produce educated and effective citizens to participate in this democracy, then we have to remember to listen to those local voices that are participating. That is what we teach our students. That is what we must practice as leaders. I thank you for coming today and listening to our voices as we work to better education for our kids in the classroom. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that very much. Crystal, who's next?
Sean Mulrooney.
Lieutenant Governor Simon, Senator Luchterfeld, good to see you again, and the Classroom First Commission. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Sean Mulrooney, and I work at Illinois Youth Center Murfreesboro. As a lot of you probably know, the Governor's Forecasting and Accountability Commission swept through Southern Illinois yesterday as a part of a closure process. The governor has recommended that IYC Murfreesboro, which is a juvenile facility in Murfreesboro, and Chester Mental Health be closed down. During the commission yesterday, it was reported that over those two facilities closing, it would affect the local economy by $78.7 million. So, I mean, how it would affect the school districts of the superintendents behind me right now would be tremendous. The opponents, the groups that were trying to shut down IYC Murfreesboro were wanting the kids to stay in the community level. They were saying that it would be more therapeutic for a kid to stay in the community and go through programs like Redeploy Illinois rather than to go to a state facility. And you know, their premise is sound for some kids, but what I don't think they understand is the type of kids we actually deal with. I mean, we deal with kids, we have kids in our facility right now that are in for assaulting their teachers, you know, so it doesn't make much sense to keep those kids in the community where they can do it again. So my question is simple, and it's for the Lieutenant Governor. Ma'am, do you support the governor's decision to shut down these two facilities in Southern Illinois in your own backyard?
Thanks for the question, and to the other members of the commission. I'm sorry that that we're getting distracted here, but it's a very worthwhile distraction, and I'm glad that you've taken advantage of the process yesterday and in the open forum today. What I have supported is the governor's decision on the budget from the get-go, which was to propose a budget that would have covered these facilities and would have kept folks employed. I've supported the governor on his estimation of a higher number for the budget target, and that didn't survive the legislative process. What the governor has to do now is deal with the budget that has been approved and figure out how to best divide the resources of the state. The process that he's engaged in here is one that I think is, my wish would be that we didn't have to close any of the facilities. I very much appreciate the jobs. I have friends who work in both places, and I know the importance of the economy, particularly to an area that's more rural. It would be a huge impact, and I don't think those numbers even do it justice. So I wish we wouldn't have to close any facilities. The process, though, of having each facility have the opportunity to say, here's what we do, here's why we do it, here's how we do it, here's how it would have an impact on the community, I think is a valid process. And I hope that the attention that's been focused on these proposed closures will be enough to get everyone together in the veto session so that we might find a way to avoid the closures. That's a very long, complicated answer. I'm sorry about that, but I would rather not shut the facilities, absolutely not. But looking at it as a state, we have to figure out how we use our limited resources. Thank you. Yes.
Our last speaker is David Godfrey.
First of all, I appreciate the time the committee's given me to come and talk to you. My name is David Godfrey. I am the president of the local school board, Joplin Maple Grove, District number 38, Joplin, Illinois. I, to be quite frank about it, I wasn't going to say anything when I first got here. I got a prepared statement, but I feel kind of overwhelmed by the knowledge in this room. I'm just a local school board president in a district that Dr. Webb referred to earlier. We're a small district. We're one of those districts that consolidation has been an issue for several years. I've been on the board for 17 years, and I've heard it every year that I've been there. As a parent that's had 5 children go through the district, as a local business owner in the area, closing our school would be detrimental to our town. Not just detrimental, probably would close our town. We're a town of 500 people. Our high school has approximately 120 students. Our elementary has just a little over 200. We are a small district. But I can tell you, we're doing things right. We've been blessed. We've had a superintendent that just left and retired that got us on the road financially. We're financially sound. We have a faculty that cares about our students. And I think that, and I appreciate the Lieutenant Governor's change of it may be still about consolidation, but if we're trying to save money, I understand. I'm a businessman. I understand you have to cut costs. You have to you have to be frugal with what you're given. And I understand that. But I would admonish the committee to look to each district on a one-on-one basis. I think we're probably an anomaly in the state. 20% of our budget's based on what we get from the state. 20% of our budget comes from the state. The rest of it comes from local taxes. So I think locally, the issue should be decided. And I'll read you what I prepared, but I just wanted to make those comments to you because I agree with Dr. Webb, and he said it so eloquently. That's why he's where he's at. He's a good man. In fact, he was part of Joplin Road at one time. My statement is this. I'm concerned every time I hear the word consolidation. It has been an issue for many years in my home district of Joplin, but we have and continue to be a leader in our area for financial stability and top education scores. We have a history of creating some of our area's leaders, including doctors, and even 2 past and present superintendents at Massac County High School. Our administration has consistently cut costs where they could be without affecting the education of our students. Our community has been an important part of the continuing success of our district, and with strong support from a very capable and caring faculty. Our students have an advantage that they could never get at a larger city school, one-on-one time with their teachers. That, I believe, continues to be one of the reasons we can still help our children be successful in future endeavors. I would just ask the Commission before making final votes on any given scenario to visit extreme southern Illinois to see the reason people feel so passionately about their schools and to see the same thing we do on the school board is that giving our children the best opportunity they could possibly get for a great education and not get lost in the system. Our people feel passionately about our schools because our teachers care. We have administration that cares, and we have a town that cares. And as long as we're financially stable, as long as we're offered education, I was on the board with a gentleman by the name of Ben. He was on the board for about 35 years. I remember one statement he told me many years ago. He says, as long as we can offer a stable and fantastic education, we need to stay where we are. The day we cannot offer a good education, we need to close the doors. And I'm here to tell you today that we're not there. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Godfrey, I think that was very eloquent, even though you didn't think so. I think you said it very well, and I think it was a nice way to circle back to the beginning comments that we really need to make sure that we're not coming up with any cookie-cutter solution, that one size does not fit all, and I think you're looking at a panel of folks who very much appreciates that message and was starting off with that perspective, and that's very good reinforcement for that. So thank you very much. Let me add one other note of thanks for everyone again for being here, and to say that that this is the end of this particular hearing, but not the end of the process, and certainly not the end of how you can communicate with the Commission. We do have a website through my office, through the Lieutenant Governor's office, and the website is ltgov. SIMON, LTGov, at illinois.gov. Okay. ltgov.il.gov. And you can probably all Google that faster than I can say it. And we have an office in Carbondale, Springfield, Chicago. I'm interested in hearing from you on the website. We also have a survey, so there's lots and lots of ways for you to be in touch, to have your opinions heard, and we are reaching out with that in mind. We are very much interested in hearing from everyone. Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation. We appreciate it.